Good evening, Lizzie boys, and welcome back to my channel. So I've been thinking about this for a while, but since I don't script my videos, I don't know how well this is going to go. But today I wanted to talk about Once Upon a Zombie. I thought it would be fun to try to go over the history of the doll line, what I know about it. Unfortunately, I couldn't find as much information as I was hoping to, but most of the information I have is about the company behind Once Upon a Zombie, and the company is kind of what led to the brand kind of just ending. We'll get to it when we get to it, but keep in mind if this isn't organized the best or formatted the best, this is my first time ever trying a video like this, so go easy on me, I don't know. I hope you guys enjoy it anyway. Let's get into it. So Once Upon a Zombie is a short-lived doll line from 2013 to 2014. I want to say that maybe they were still kicking around stores in 2015, but they were pulled from shelves around late 2014 or sometime during the year. Point is, these dolls were not around for too long, but they left a bit of an impact on the doll community. Not a big one, but I feel like I've been seeing them around more often. Or maybe that's just my personal interests. I've been getting into nicher stuff lately. The original lineup of 6 dolls included Sleeping Beauty, Belle, The Little Mermaid, Rapunzel, Snow White, and Cinderella. There was a web series as well, and there's plenty of artworks made of each character. But for the most part, these were the main 6 that you were following. Granted, I should mention in the web series that only Rapunzel, Cinderella, and Snow White were ever actually shown, alongside Pinocchio and Prince Charming, who we'll get to later. But as far as it goes, Sleeping Beauty and Belle I think were only mentioned, and I'm actually not 100% sure if The Little Mermaid ever got mentioned. I don't think she did, but she may have, and I might have just missed it. There's only 3 episodes of that, so I'll talk about those in a moment as well. The dolls were made and manufactured by Wowie, which is a toy company I don't think really has dabbled in dolls too much. At least, I've never really heard of any other doll lines from Wowie. Once Upon a Zombie seems to be one of the few that they've worked on. But they made Rapunzel, Snow White, Belle, The Little Mermaid, Sleeping Beauty, and Cinderella. They also made Alice, but I'm not talking about her yet because she was a part of Wave 2. So their designs for Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty actually ended up changing, and these 2 characters ended up getting second releases. Everyone else, though, just stayed looking like this. If I'm being honest, I really like the designs for the dolls. I think they're a lot of fun. I love their inset eyes, and I should mention that they don't wear shoes. I mean, you could already see in the artwork that they don't have shoes, but it wasn't as clear in this photo. The dolls did not wear shoes. They all feature poly hair, and their bodies are a bit flimsy, like their legs kind of just break off sometimes. Totally not speaking from experience. But overall, Series 1 was pretty well constructed, and I think the dolls were really nice. The only character that I own from Series 1 is Sleeping Beauty. I would really like to get more of them, but unfortunately these dolls are like just a bit pricier than I think they should be secondhand, and not to mention don't show up for decent prices very often. Basically, these dolls can get a bit expensive. They're a bit more on the niche side, so some people who have them just may not know what they are, and then when you look them up by name, that leads to the prices being a bit higher. Could also be a demand thing. In Series 2, we're introduced to a new design for Sleeping Beauty with a pink and purple dress, and a blue dress for Cinderella, as well as a different hairstyle. So I think that's fun. And the only new character to be added in this line was Alice, who is probably the most sought-after doll from the lineup. She was on the shelves for the smallest amount of time alongside these 2, so these 2 are also kind of uncommon, but nobody seems to care about them as much as Alice. Alice is definitely the most desired, and in my opinion, she's probably the best constructed, even though, once again, her legs are prone to breaking off. I am, in fact, speaking from experience. Before I get into talking about the episodes, I should talk about the books, namely the fact that I have not read them. That's right, there's 2. There was supposed to be 3, but the 3rd, as far as I know, never came out. So the first book is titled The Color of Fear and features Alice on the front, though there is also a variant with Cinderella on the front, and also they all have a necklace with their names on it on the covers of the books. They never wear these anywhere other than the covers of the books, so I'm guessing they just put those there so you can be like, oh, okay, this is Alice in Wonderland. This is Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. Speaking of, there's a lot of unreleased characters that never got any kind of dolls, some that never showed up in the series, a lot that never showed up in the series, and also some that were supposed to get dolls and just didn't. I'll cover those in a moment once we talk about the webisodes. But the second book was titled Lord of the Curtain. Like I said, I have never read either of these books, so I can't really tell you what they're about. But I know that there's a protagonist named Caitlin who's just kind of like a regular human girl and is like trying to save her sister from the zombie fairy tale world. So that seems to be what's going on in there. And like I said, there was supposed to be a third book that was never produced or released, so the story just kind of, I guess, ends on a cliffhanger there. So episode 1, and this is a screenshot because I don't want to get copyrighted showing clips of this, but in episode 1, we start off with the only 3 characters to make an appearance from the core doll line. So we've got Cinderella, Snow White, and Rapunzel all talking to each other over the phone, getting ready to go to a Wonderland ball. At least I believe that's what it was called. It's been a few days since I watched this. I know I could just check right now. They're only a 6-minute watch, all 3 episodes, but I'm doing my best here. But anyway, they all end up doing something significant to their fairy tale, which triggers them to transform into zombies. For example, Snow White takes a bite of an apple, turns her into a zombie. Cinderella is putting on a glass slipper, turns her into a zombie, and shatters the slipper. And then Rapunzel brushes her hair, and it turns her into a zombie. And then episode 1 ends after they get turned into zombies. In episode 2, we get to see everybody zombified. I think Rapunzel actually transforms in this episode. Once again, I could be wrong. I know I could just go check these things, but I'm kind of unprofessional, sorry. But anyway, they end up just kind of deciding, okay, we need to meet up and figure out what to do. We've all turned into zombies. Also, Rapunzel's British for some reason. Did I mention that yet? She's got a British accent. She's the only one that does. After they all meet up and are zombies now, they decide to go to the Wonderland Ball, where Cinderella ends up dancing with Prince Charming. They dance to a song about it being over. Kind of reminds me of the Bjork, It's Over song between Cleo and Deuce. Like, the lyrics are kind of similar, like, all about it being over and stuff. But then she's like, oh, you're not gonna love me anymore, I'm different, because she's a zombie now. And he's like, no, I still love you, and then they kiss, and he turns into a zombie as well, and that's it. That's all that happens in the show, because no more episodes were made. There's a chance that the story is continued in the books. I'm not sure if the story is different from the books and the episodes. I have no idea because I have not read these, but I do want to someday. I just haven't found them anywhere. I'm definitely on the search for them now, though, especially this one with Dorothy on the cover. I really want to read this one. But yeah, that's a wrap on the Once Upon a Zombie media. Other than that, there's a couple short stories that they posted to Facebook and have been archived through the Once Upon a Zombie wiki, but I don't really feel like reading through those, but I will leave a link to the wiki in the description if you guys are interested in that. So let's talk characters. We've already discussed the characters who did get dolls, so you know the main 6 and Alice, but there were a plethora of characters that they were planning to introduce and unfortunately just did not make it to production. So there was going to be a zombie Tinkerbell, Pinocchio, who did actually show up in the cartoon, I forgot to mention, because it was kind of just a background cameo where he did not speak at all. Peter Pan was supposed to get a doll, Alice did get one, and Prince Charming was one that they were planning on releasing, but unfortunately, he just did not happen. Other characters include Tanika, the Princess and the Pea. Obviously, she's a little similar to someone you may have seen before. And a zombie Pocahontas. They were also going to make a Queen of Hearts, which would have been really cool. I actually really like this design for her, but unfortunately Alice was the only Wonderlandian character that we ever got to see. There are actually some prototypes out there for some of these characters. For example, this is a prototype, not a custom, a prototype of the Prince Charming. You can tell it's supposed to be him. This was created by the creators of Once Upon a Zombie and was auctioned off on eBay, I believe sold for $5 back in the day. I really wonder where this guy ended up. Another prototype they created was this one for Pinocchio. He was also auctioned off on eBay. There's a few of these actually. I'll cover all of them. So here we have a prototype of a zombie Snow Queen, one of a zombie Tinkerbell, and a second zombie Tinkerbell. You can tell that these are different because this doll has arm joints and this one does not. Her wings are also made of felt compared to this one whose wings seem to be made of some sort of clay. So these are two separate Tinkerbells. And of course then there's the Pinocchio and the Prince Charming. All 5 of these were sold on eBay for apparently $5. That's what the Once Upon a Zombie Wiki reports. I really wonder where they ended up. And it's very interesting to me how different these look from the actual release dolls, considering, you know, these, I'm assuming, came first compared to these that came after. I'm assuming the reason they look different is maybe because they just used whatever they had lying around to create a general concept of what the dolls were supposed to look like and what they wanted them to look like, basically. So here we have some other prototypes from Once Upon a Zombie. These were shown at a toy fair. As you can see, there was a original version of Alice, slightly differing from the released version of her. Just the dress is different, the hair is different, and the bow on her head is different. It's an actual headband. And we've also got a look at the zombie Pocahontas and zombie Tinkerbell. Now, I've already covered this on my channel. I got them and made a video about them. But these 3 sample heads have actually been surfacing online recently. I got mine off of AliExpress, but they're pretty cool. So here are the sample heads. We've got zombie Pocahontas, zombie Tinkerbell, and of course the zombie Alice sample. Like I said, I own all 3 of them, and they're pretty nice in person. Honestly, I'd say Alice's face was probably better on the sample than it was on the actual release doll, who I also own. But as for these 2, I can't really speak for, like, if they were better than the release dolls, because there are no release dolls for these 2. Though it should be noted that Pocahontas has a slightly darker skin tone in comparison to the other 2 characters, so you kind of can't find her a body if you buy this, because the other bodies are all lighter. It's even stranger, though, because in her illustration, which looks pretty similar to the doll they constructed, she has, like, a sort of almost human skin tone, I would say. It's not, like, fully gray, but, you know, like, you can kind of see, like, she's a bit tan, you know? So it makes it stranger that her doll was just going to be gray like everyone else, but I guess you don't want to break the color scheme too much. I don't know. Pocahontas was a weird choice anyway. You can tell they only did this because they're copying Disney princesses. I don't want to play my hand too early, but I am going to talk about that. Don't worry. So some other unreleased Once Upon a Zombie things include a big 6-pack, which would have been pretty nice to get, to be honest. Like, imagine going to the store and picking this up. You would have all the dolls in one go. Granted, this is the second versions of Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty, not the first version. So if you wanted those versions, you would have to get them individually, but still, this would be pretty nice for a collector, you know? And there's also this unreleased Once Upon a Zombie horse. Doesn't seem to come with a doll, but it has an illustration of Sleeping Beauty, so maybe it was meant to be her horse. I don't know. This picture has like 2 pixels on it, and I cannot for the life of me figure out what this was meant to be. Just a horse? Is it a zombie horse? It doesn't look like a zombie horse. This was found at a Chinese toy fair, by the way. Once Upon a Zombie had a bunch of random merchandise, like these are tattoos that you could get, and there's like a zombie Captain Hook here who I don't think exists outside of like this tattoo set. I've never seen the artwork for him before, so that's interesting. Also, it says your favorite Disney characters as zombies, so they're not even trying to hide it anymore, man. So if they're done trying to hide it, I am too. The reason this doll line came to an end is because they started getting a little too cocky with the copying Disney princesses thing. The company behind Once Upon a Zombie, Toon Studio of Beverly Hills, their bread and butter is ripping off Disney properties. This is their Toon Studio Fairy Tale Princess Collection. Right away, you may notice that their designs for the princesses here are almost exactly the same as their Once Upon a Zombie designs. Like, they even went back and changed Sleeping Beauty to have the same dress as she does in their own fairy tale princess lineup. So this is basically what they do. I'm pretty sure the only reason this line came into creation and like to fruition was because, oh hey, let's use our Disney princess line ripoff to ride the coattails of Monster High. Because there were a lot of doll lines that popped up during the 2010s, hoping to capture the same audience as Monster High. And to be fair, some of them worked. Like, Novi Stars was around for a bit, same with Bratzilla's. The only reason Bratzilla's stopped was because Bratz decided to do the 2015 reboot. So, Thanks, Bratz 2015. Although that's a video for another day. So, yeah, this is kind of what the Toon Studio does. They did it with their Fairy Tale High as well. As you can see, they used the exact same characters. Little Mermaid, Snow White, Rapunzel, Cinderella, Belle, Tinkerbell, and then Alice, you know? It's basically all the same characters. I'm not really interested in Fairy Tale High, though, so I'm not going to talk about this one for too long. But basically, this, I think, actually slightly predates Ever After High. Like, they might have beaten them to the punch in putting these out on the market. But, yeah, there's not much to this one. It has a couple of webisodes, but I am not interested in these at all. Though it should be noted, I think these were produced by Jakks Pacific because they have the Winx body. Also, because I'm never going to get a chance to talk about this again, they had dolls for their Fairy Tale Princess lineup, and they look terrible. Here's a 4-pack of, I'm assuming, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Little Mermaid, and Snow White. Here's a single release for Rapunzel. They are so inconsistent in how they look, because these don't look the same at all. Like, they just look completely different. And their lineup of little Disney baby toddler dolls, this is basically just a Snow White doll. This is basically just a Snow White doll. I don't know how they were getting away with this. I don't think Once Upon a Zombie ever faced a formal lawsuit from Disney, but WowWee, the company behind them, obviously got a bit scared of that. They got cold feet and they pulled out of the line. That's why Alice and the other two, the secondary versions of the other characters, are hard to find because they weren't on shelves for very long. Alice in particular suffered, though. People really wanted her, and she wasn't available for very long because the line got the plug pulled on it. So that's how Once Upon a Zombie came to an end. So I think they were trying to make some kind of comeback for a while, the Toon Studio. They wanted to bring back Once Upon a Zombie. They started posting on Instagram again back in like 2022, and it was nice to see them posting, but as soon as AI art started becoming a thing, I do not support AI art, by the way. Not a fan of that. So once they started posting that, it became clear, oh, they're just trying to peddle more merchandise of their characters. They're not actually going to make new dolls or release the 3rd book. So, unfortunately, much like their zombie counterparts, Once Upon a Zombie is dead. I don't think it'll ever make a comeback. But it was a really interesting doll collection, doll line, and I would have liked to have gotten them while they were in stores. But unfortunately, when they were releasing, I was busy being a child and not having a source of income, so I could not buy them. I think I'm going to call it there. I've said everything I wanted to about Once Upon a Zombie and the Toon Studio of Beverly Hills. But, yeah, sorry if this video was kind of poorly formatted. I've never really done anything like this before. I just thought it could be fun to try it out, so I'm glad that I did. If you guys would like to see another attempt at a video like this in the future, I'll gladly try again. But for now, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys are fans of Once Upon a Zombie, feel free to let me know in the comments. I had a lot of you guys in the comments when I mentioned I was getting a Once Upon a Zombie package soon, so I'm sure you guys will come out of the woodworks and find this video. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. If I left anything out that you think is important to include, feel free to let me know in the comments, and I will either heart or pin your comment. I think I can only pin one, though, so make it really important if you want the pin. But yeah, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye!